Exposed, the unexpected $5 million secret that transformed an INGRATEFUL woman's life forever. Olivia Thompson's life had never felt more confined than in that attic, stifling and heavy with dust motes swirling around the fading sunlight. The walls seemed to close in on her as she rummaged through boxes that held echoes of her family's past. Each item whispered of lives lived in luxury while she resided in a cramped, dilapidated apartment with her daughter. A rusted trunk caught her attention, and with shaking hands, she found the file hidden behind it. As she pulled it out, dread mixed with a flicker of hope. Her heart raced, a relentless drumbeat, as she flipped open the cover. $5 million. Inheritance. A family restaurant. It felt like a punch to the gut. Could she really accept this bag of riches, this unexpected boon, when her very existence felt like a mockery of privilege? At Dottie's diner, where life's staying power was reflected in the greasy fryers and coffee-stained counters, Olivia's world was a stark contrast to the one laid out before her. The diner was both her sanctuary and her prison. Ratty booths were filled with gossip, and she was never quite the main topic, always the single mother teetering at the edge of tedium. The right side of town was lined with shiny cars and gated dreams, people who whispered her name with disdain, labeling her as less than. Could she trounce her past a waitress in an affluent family's eyes with this inheritance? Accepting it felt treasonous. As she reached for the remnants of hope, a tightness enveloped her chest. Could she reconcile her life at Dottie's with this newfound fortune? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determination warred with self-doubt as Olivia envisioned transforming the family restaurant into a community hub. An extravagance wasn't just needed, it was expected. Not worthy, the echoes of her relatives rang out in her mind. They would see her as a failure, a waitress raised by wealthy privilege but rendered nothing by choice. Each step in the renovation felt like walking a tightrope, one wobble too far to the side, and she could plunge into oblivion. As she stripped the peeling paint from the walls, a man who used to work the grill approached her one afternoon. The secrets rolled off his tongue like an old film reel. The restaurant was more than a symbol of legacy, it was steeped in shame and skepticism. Her family's roots were murky: murders, betrayals, unspeakable decisions layered beneath the surface she accepted as pristine. With every whispered word, her integrity crumbled. Should she abandon the legacy or embrace it? The weight of her relatives' judgment bore down on her even harder. The day of the grand reopening loomed closer, but so did doubt. Friends and acquaintances had begun making comments, their shadows like vultures circling, hungry for the chance to tear her apart. What if she failed, revealing herself as nothing more than an undeserving ingrate? As the moments of clarity morphed with the encompassing darkness, anger at her own existence surged. With one thought at the forefront of her mind, would digging into the past uncover more than just history? The room spun as revelations dripped slowly but surely like a fractured faucet. An immovable choice lay ahead. Would she reshape her life, or would she stumble, crushed beneath the weight of a legacy that felt like chains of hypocrisy? The silence echoed as she faced a revelation that could shatter everything. What if everything she was trying to build was worthless? Olivia stood in the once faded Dottie's diner, now a canvas of her ambition. The walls still bore the scars of her family's tumultuous past, but she had splashed hints of vibrant color across them, igniting an unexpected life into the space. Each brushstroke was a confrontation with the past, or perhaps a rejection of it. She couldn't escape the relentless battering of her thoughts, a war zone where hope and dread battled for dominance. As the reopening date approached, the tension morphed into a palpable energy that blanketed her mind. Facing the judgmental gazes of her former classmates loomed ominously. She envisioned their condescending smiles, misjudging her every move and waiting for her to fail. Could she truly create something meaningful from such a fractured legacy? Was her endeavor merely a desperate grasp for validation in a world that had always relegated her to the sidelines? Just take it one step at a time, she whispered to herself, though the certainty of her own words felt fragile beneath the weight of the expectations she had piled upon herself. The diner was more than a business, it was a lifeline, a chance to reclaim her identity while facing the ghosts of her family's empire. But the shadows grew taller each day. She was never just tasked with reopening a diner, she was up against ingrained perceptions, a family history riddled with infamy, and her own deep-seated insecurities. With every interaction, the looming threat of that $5 million sat in the back of her mind. What if it was a curse rather than a blessing? On the day of the first soft opening, Olivia arranged for a test run to gauge the diner's readiness. She had invited only a few trusted friends and lifelong patrons to appease her nerves. As she stepped into the kitchen, the familiar comfort of the heat enveloped her, reminding her of childhood memories spent with her mother, despite their complicated dynamics. Out of the shadows emerged an unexpected ally, Gina, an older waitress who had been with Dottie S since before Olivia was born. "You know, darling, these walls have been through a lot. Might be worth listening to them," she said, her voice warm yet firm. "What do you mean?" Olivia asked, her brow furrowing. "There's a legacy here bigger than any money," Gina intoned, her gaze shifting through the kitchen window toward the diner's entrance. "You aren't just selling food, you're inheriting love, laughter, and the chance to mend broken connections." With that, Olivia found a glimmer of clarity. Healing the insight smacked her like a sudden gust of wind. What if she could pave a new path, one that merged the richness of her family's past with her own humble roots? With a newfound determination, she began to lean into the complexities of her inheritance. She meticulously crafted the menu, taking care to incorporate dishes that honored her mother's recipes while infusing her own flair, a bridge between the two worlds she inhabited. But the chatter surrounding her endeavor remained gnawing. Days turned into sleepless nights, the stakes felt impossibly high. As Olivia honed her menu and revamped every detail, her focus became a double-edged sword, driving her towards a breakthrough but also tethering her to a fear of failure. Each aspect of the diner was now a reflection of her soul, amplified under the scrutiny of the public eye. As opening night finally arrived, déjà vu gripped her. Standing in front of the door, with the chorus of voices behind her, the pressure mounted. Could she transcend the burden of her past? Would the dreams she held as a child amount to something real? Breath quaking, she pushed the door open, an intimate hush enveloping her as the crowd met her gaze, old friends, former foes, and uncertain customers from the neighborhood. The moment she stepped onto the threshold felt monumental, the fusion of her two worlds poised on the brink of revelation. Would Olivia's efforts culminate in catharsis or calamity? The first customer was approaching, holding the weight of possibility in their hands. The night's expectations hung palpably in the air, and with it, one question blared louder than all others: what would this night reveal about her true self? The air was thick with anxiety as Olivia locked eyes with the first customer, an elderly man she recognized from the diner's earlier days. His wrinkled face split into a broad smile, one that pulled at the forgotten melodies of her childhood. His presence was a reminder that the diner had always been more than a place to eat, it was a sanctuary, a vessel of connection. "Welcome to Dottie S, sir. What can I get for you?" she managed, her voice steady yet vulnerable. "Just a cup of the house blend, sweetheart." "Been waiting for this place to reopen," he replied, as if she could alter the past with a mere cup of coffee. As she poured the dark liquid and slid it across the counter, the clinking of the cup reverberated within her, an unexpected spark igniting an inner dialogue. They weren't here to judge her, they came for nostalgia, a taste of what once was. But beneath that layer of comfort, doubt began to stir again. Would their nostalgia align with her new vision? With each subsequent customer, Olivia found herself juggling a cocktail of emotions. A group of 3 friends from high school stepped up, their expressions a mixture of excitement and skepticism. She felt their scrutiny like a physical weight, but their orders also forced her to dip deeper into her resolve. They demanded the old favorites, and Olivia delivered, her hands moving almost instinctively as she prepared dishes that echoed her mother's culinary soul. Memories flooded back, voices raised in laughter, disagreements over recipes, attempts to graft new ideas onto traditional dishes. And yet, the fear clung to her like a shadow. Would her efforts elevate her mother's legacy, or simply highlight her failures? The contrast between the diner's spirit and her own internal turmoil became increasingly stark. Each smile from her customers felt like a thin veil gently lifted, revealing a deeper truth that throbbed beneath the surface. Olivia had inherited not just a diner but a responsibility to carry its essence forward. As the dinner crowd ebbed and flowed, she began to notice how her appetizers were embraced, but the fear of losing control of the evening gnawed at her. When a group of critics arrived, she felt her heart race. Each bite they took seemed to play out in slow motion. She watched as their forks hovered, anticipating judgment. "Tell us about this dish," one critic inquired, suspicion lacing her tone. Boosted by a mix of trepidation and resolve, Olivia stepped forward, ready to face the scrutiny head-on. "This is my take on a family classic, one I hope honors my mother's spirit while reflecting my own journey," she stated, feeling the weight of her own words. "Your journey?" the critic countered, eyes narrowing. "What makes you think your vision can overshadow the legacy of Es?" In that moment, a surprising wave of clarity washed over her. A question flooded her mind: why was she hiding behind the legacy instead of establishing her own? "I've always been told my ideas were less impressive than my mother's," Olivia replied, the weight of the truth spilling from her. "But today, I'm beginning to believe they might matter too." The critic raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued but not entirely convinced. "You think simply carrying on isn't enough?" Olivia met her gaze, grounded in the gravity of her realization. "It's not just about carrying on, it's about evolving. I want to breathe new life into this place. I want to create a legacy that integrates both the past and the present." The murmur from the crowd swelled, an intriguing energy weaving through the diner. Suspicion softened into curiosity, a road ahead where acceptance could blossom. As orders continued to flow and patrons laughed, Olivia felt each dish become an expression of her determination, serving not merely as sustenance but as a bridge between who she was and who she aspired to be. The night unfolded unpredictably, a mix of triumphs and tests, yet she stood firm amidst the chaos. But just as Olivia began to find her footing, a dissonant chord struck when she spotted a familiar figure at the back of the diner. Someone she had hoped to avoid, a specter from her past with a scoreboard of judgment etched on his face. Suddenly, the room felt smaller, the stakes heavier. What would this uninvited guest reveal about the vision she was crafting, and would they extinguish her newfound resolve? The seconds ticked away as Olivia's gaze lingered on the man at the rear of the diner. It was Derek, her childhood friend turned nemesis. They had shared laughter and dreams long ago, but their paths had diverged in ways that had left scars. The disapproval etched on his face sent a jolt of anxiety through her, destabilizing her hard-won confidence. He had a penchant for calling things as he saw them, and she could feel the weight of his judgment pressing down, ready to expose her insecurities. "Olivia," he called out, his voice cutting through the din like a knife. "How's that new menu treating you? Or is it still a work in progress?" The tension in the air shifted, eyes darting between them. Olivia's heartbeat surged, pounding loud enough for her to hear over the chatter. This was no longer just about her food, it felt like a challenge to her identity. For a fleeting moment, she considered hiding behind the counter, letting her fear guide her into retreat. But then she felt a tide of defiance swell within. "No more running." "Derek," she responded, mustering a faint calmness that barely disguised the fury within. "It's more than just a menu, it's an evolution." "Evolution?" he scoffed, leaning back with a smirk. "Are you really trying to reinvent the wheel? Es is famous for its classic charm and comfort. Do you really think your twist on things will convince anyone?" His words hung in the air, a mixture of mockery and doubt, but Olivia refused to let them penetrate her newfound resolve. This was the moment she had to seize, or risk losing everything she had fought to reclaim. Without thinking, she stepped away from the protective embrace of the counter. The diner felt alive, a battleground of voices and flavors where she could finally articulate her vision. "I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, Derek. I'm here to honor my mother's legacy and redefine what this diner represents," she said, her voice steady but charged with emotion. Each word felt like an anchor as she faced the man who had doubted her most. "Honoring is one thing, but it's about so much more than just being your mother's daughter. You have to be your own person," he challenged, his gaze unwavering. "I know that," she asserted, the walls of her insecurity beginning to crumble. "But part of being myself is recognizing where I come from. I want to breathe new life into those old recipes, not just mimic them." "Good luck with that," he shot back, unimpressed, and her stomach knotted at the realization of just how much his words affected her. But something clicked internally, her fear began to morph into a decision. She wouldn't shrink from this confrontation. She would stand her ground. "I believe in what I'm doing. This diner is my canvas, and I am the artist," Olivia declared, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. With that proclamation, she felt a fragment of her mother's spirit beside her, supporting and guiding her through the uncertainty. Derek raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback. For once, she sensed his wall beginning to weaken. Each moment they shared was laden with a silent battle, her fight for authenticity against his rigid expectations. Before she could infer the effect of her words, a waitress approached with empty plates, diverting the critical gaze away from their exchange. Olivia took this opportunity to gather herself, absorbing the energy swirling around her. The diner felt charged, a palpable pulse of hope and ambition, igniting her belief in her own evolution. But as patrons cheered for the new flavors and daring combinations, Derek's expression remained static, his skepticism turned to intrigue but shrouded in uncertainty. Did he see the change, or was he still tethered to the past? As the night progressed, whispers danced through the diner's air, and the tension from earlier transformed into a quiet challenge she could feel in her bones. This was only the beginning of her journey, fraught with obstacles and judgments. She had taken a step, but now she needed to solidify her path. Just as she prepared to dive back into the rhythm of the evening, her phone buzzed from behind the counter, a notification that made her heart skip. An unexpected message from her old mentor, a culinary mastermind, who wanted to meet. Could this be the ally she needed? The confirmation she sought? The promise of a partnership to infuse her vision with the expertise she lacked? With doubt swirling yet tempered by resolve, Olivia glanced back at Derek. If her path would truly evolve, his reaction could either propel or hinder her next steps. What awaited her at the upcoming meeting? Would she find the guidance needed to bridge the legacy she respected with the career she dreamed of? The desire to propel herself forward clashed with the pull of her past, leaving her in a state of breathless anticipation. The clock was ticking, and she felt herself suspended between two worlds, both demanding her attention. It was time to make her move. Olivia barely slept that night, her mind racing with possibilities. The message from her mentor, Chef Julian, intertwined with the tension of her confrontation with Derek. She couldn't shake the feeling that her life was at a critical juncture, and she understood that this meeting would test everything she had been preparing for. As dawn broke, she found herself in the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator soothing her frayed nerves. She had always loved the rhythm of cooking, chopping, sautéing, plating. Each task granted her a moment of clarity, pulling her mind from the chaos of the night before. Today, she would craft a dish that represented her journey, a fusion of cherished memories and bold future aspirations. She started with her mother's classic chicken pot pie recipe, transforming it by infusing unexpected flavors, a hint of turmeric and a dash of coconut milk, a tribute to her travels and the cultures she admired. Each bite of her dish would tell a story, a bridge linking the past with the potential she yearned to explore. Hours later, as she carefully plated the dish, anticipation thrummed in her veins. She wanted to impress Chef Julian but also showcase the evolution she had found within herself. Today wouldn't simply be a review, it was a chance for her to manifest what she envisioned for Es. When the time came, a wave of nerves washed over her as she approached the cafe where they had agreed to meet. The smell of fresh coffee and baked goods swirled in the air, and she took a moment to center herself, breathe deep, pushing down the self-doubt that gnawed at her. Arriving at a table near a window, she scanned the room until her eyes met Julian's. He had been her mentor for years, a profound influence on her culinary education, and he looked as sharp as ever. His faint smile warmed her anxiety a touch. "Olivia, it's good to see you. I've been hearing exciting things about what you're doing at Es," he acknowledged, settling into his seat. "But I sense there's more beneath the surface." It was a simple observation, yet it struck a chord. She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "You're right. I'm trying to honor my mom's legacy but also carve out my own identity as a chef. I need guidance on bringing this vision to life in a way that feels authentic." He leaned in, curiosity kindling in his gaze. "Tell me about that vision." As she began to describe her newly crafted menu, her words poured out, fueled by the adrenaline of hope. She spoke of the delicate dance between tradition and innovation, the culinary risks she was willing to take. As she explained her dish, her confidence grew, propelling her beyond the limits of her insecurities. Julian listened intently, nodding as she articulated her goals. Then, he dropped a bombshell. "Olivia, what if I told you I have an opportunity and investment that could help take Es to the next level? But I need to see how committed you are. There's a culinary competition this week, and I think you should enter." Her heart raced. This could be the chance she'd been waiting for. But deep down, a part of her recoiled at the pressure. What did she truly know about competition? What if she failed? "I don't know, chef. Competing means putting everything on the line. What if I'm not ready?" He offered a reassuring smile. "You are more equipped than you realize. This isn't just about cooking, it's about embracing who you are. The real question is whether you'll step up for yourself. Are you willing to embrace the risk?" Olivia felt the weight of his words settle over her. This was another defining moment, one that held the power to elevate her journey. But it also meant facing the fear of failure, the uncertainty that had plagued her all along. As she contemplated the decision, Derek's skeptical face flashed through her mind again, but this time, it wasn't filled with doubt. Instead, it transformed into a challenge, a reminder of who she had fought against for so long. Should she confront that old fear, step boldly onto this new stage, and see for herself what she could achieve? Taking a shaky breath, she met Julian's expectant gaze. "I'll do it. I want to enter the competition." A flicker of pride passed across his expression, and it ignited in Olivia a sense of purpose, a feeling she hadn't had in years. Yet, the exhilaration hung precariously close to the edge of anxiety. Would this leap propel her toward her vision, or would it unravel the fabric she had painstakingly woven? As she left the cafe, determination mingled with an undercurrent of dread. The stakes were rising, and she knew she would face more than just culinary opponents. The time had come to confront not only her culinary skills but the principles guiding her life and the legacy she was determined to uphold. Could she turn her fear into fuel, ignite her creativity, and rise to the occasion? A new fork in her path awaited, and with it, the most significant test of her journey yet. Would she claim her destiny, or might she falter in the face of the daunting challenge ahead? The competition loomed, and within that anticipation lingered the question, was she truly ready to face whatever came next? The days leading up to the competition felt like an unending march through a fog of nerves and anticipation. Olivia immersed herself in the kitchen, the space pulsing with the vitality of her newfound commitment. She felt acutely aware that every hour spent practicing was a direct conversation with her fears, an act of defiance against the doubt that had once consumed her. Each morning began with the same routine, preparing ingredients, testing flavors, refining her dish. She dedicated herself to the chicken pot pie, embracing its rich history while looking unflinchingly toward the future. The turmeric infusions felt like specters of her travels, daring her to embrace the unknown. But with every spoonful she tasted, a nagging voice whispered that she needed something more, something that would elevate her dish beyond simple nostalgia. As she scrutinized her composition, staring at the vibrant yellow hue of the curry, she heard Julian's voice echoing in her mind, "What if you could surprise them? What if your dish told a bigger story?" The pressure to create magic stoked her resolve but also intensified her inner conflict. Was she merely a copy of her mother's legacy, or could she carve out a niche that was distinctly her own? One night, in a moment of desperation, she scrolled through old notes from her culinary training. Among a flurry of tips and techniques, she stumbled upon a forgotten recipe, a coconut curry that had dazzled her palate during her studies. What if I fused it into the pie, she mused, feeling a spark of inspiration. A subtle layer of curry amidst the chicken and that comforting crust. With renewed vigor, Olivia spent the next several days experimenting. She prepared trial after trial, meticulously adjusting ratios and flavor profiles. As she combined sweet and savory notes, she grew bolder, allowing her instincts to guide her hands. Each success sent ripples of confidence through her. But alongside the thrill of creativity was an undercurrent of fear. What if it wasn't enough? One late evening, as she cramped for space in her humble kitchen, the weight of doubt became almost suffocating. She paced, her mind becoming a battleground. Memories of Derek's dismissive laughter punctured through her focus. What could he have ever known about the kind of chef I am? She thought furiously, willing herself to erase his specter. The recollection became fuel, energizing her to confront even that truth. In the solitude of her kitchen, she began to confront her ambitions with precision. This wasn't merely about winning, it was about understanding who she wanted to become as a chef, a professional who threatened mediocrity with audacious flavors and heartfelt stories. The day before the competition, Olivia stepped back from her stove, her hands stained with spices, provisions of promise lining her counter. The dish was no longer only a reflection of her past but a statement of her future. Even as her heart raced with uncertainty, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within. What if this was her moment? After hours of preparation, she finally plated her creation, a masterpiece that reconciled her mother's traditions with her own innovative flair. It mirrored the journey she had undertaken, brimming with all her struggles, triumphs, and fears. As she set her dish aside, she took a deep breath and allowed that hopeful flicker to grow. The competition would challenge her not just against other chefs but against herself. Could she summon the strength to claim this new identity? Olivia couldn't deny the spark of excitement within it. Her vision was forged. She had stepped close to the precipice, ready to leap. Yet amidst the thrill came an unsettling truth: if she could imagine success, she could also picture failure. The stakes were rising rapidly, and she was teetering on the edge of something profound. Would the culmination of her efforts blossom into triumph, or would the weight of expectations drown her voice? As she headed to bed that night, the reality of the competition loomed like a storm cloud. A grand test awaited, and the question hung heavy in the air: could she leverage her fear as a catalyst for her evolution, or would it instead threaten to unravel the very fabric of her ambitions? She drifted into a fitful sleep, the thin line between determination and dread blurring as she wrestled with the unknown. How could she sustain this shift? Tomorrow would reveal not only her culinary skills but also her very essence, and the anticipated challenge lingered like a storm brewing on the horizon. Could she harness the coming tempest, or would it sweep her into an abyss she feared she couldn't escape? The sun filtered softly through her kitchen window, casting a warm glow across the countertop where Olivia's dish awaited. It was competition day, and the vibrant aromas combined in the air felt electric, but the taste of apprehension lingered on her tongue. As she unpacked her ingredients for the final assembly, every pulse of her heart resonated with the enormity of what lay ahead. Focused and resolute, she transitioned into a zone where time seemed irrelevant, her hands dancing across the workstation. The crust needed to be flaky but sturdy enough to cradle the layers of chicken and curry, while the filling beckoned for the perfect balance between comfort and surprise. Her instincts took the lead, harmonizing her memories with fight and fervor. Yet, amid her focused movements, the weight of doubt bundled with the expectation of confidence shadowed her thoughts. Am I ready for this? The question rippled through her mind like water distorted by a stone's drop. What if they see right through me? In this moment of reflection, she recognized the duality of competition. It wasn't solely about culinary skill, but rather the courage to stand imperfectly before her judges. Would they perceive the authenticity woven into her dish or merely the remnants of her past? The fear of being underestimated plagued her, particularly the specter of Derek lurking within her subconscious. Determined not to be defined by past failures, she envisioned standing tall, unfurling the narrative of her identity through the triumph of her creation. As her thoughts spiraled, she snipped fresh herbs and prepared the finishing touches for her dish. Each chop carried a sharpness that echoed her internal conflict and amalgamation of hope and trepidation. It struck her that every savory herb, every hint of spice she chose represented not just her culinary narrative, but her very self and the journey to this pivotal moment. Just tell your story, she whispered to herself, reaffirming her voice against the cacophony of potential defeat. Grasping the knife tighter, she delved deeper into the artistry of her craft. Olivia had not just infused curry into a rustic classic, she poured pieces of her soul into the dish, ready to share it with the world, one bite at a time. When it came time to head to the venue, her heart became a caged bird, fluttering against the bars of anxiety. She reminded herself of the nights spent pouring her heart into the labor of love, her laughter and tears blending harmoniously amidst simmering pots. This dish was her canvas, her expression, but would it resonate? As she entered the bustling venue, the clamor of voices and sweat mingled with the smell of fresh ingredients, amplifying her heartbeat. The atmosphere crackled with competition, the air thick with palpable ambition and hope. In that sea of aspiring chefs, Olivia stood tall, searching for confidence in the vulnerability of the moment. Fingers trembling, she plated her curry-infused chicken pot pie, a masterpiece that felt more like a piece of herself than mere culinary execution. Just as she was about to step back, she caught a glimpse of Julian mingling amongst the judges, a figure who had sparked her creativity and dared her to explore boundaries. His presence ignited a flicker of determination and fear intertwined. She remembered the trust he placed in her potential and how it had pushed her to embody her own authenticity. Now, it was her chance to meet the challenge head-on and prove not just to herself, but to him and the world, what she was capable of achieving. But as the clock ticked down, the final proclamation remained unresolved. Could she reach deep within herself, access the strength that had driven her through every trial, seeing past the shadows of doubt? As the judges approached, Olivia stole a breath, her heart pounding a rhythm of both dread and resolve. Was today finally the moment she fought for, or would it unravel into a familiar pattern of disappointment? A sudden spark of clarity illuminated her thoughts. The moment had arrived not just to present a dish, but to claim her space as a chef. The stakes were unprecedented, and the world was waiting for her to rise. With the memories of past failures behind her, she turned to face the judges, a fiery determination igniting in her core. Could this be the moment where everything changed? As she set her plate before them, she found herself standing at the precipice of her future, waiting for the verdict that would determine her fate. Would she claim her right to shine, or would the pent-up fears keep her anchored to the ground? The air felt electric as the judges leaned forward, their eyes scanning Olivia's creation. The tension wrapped around her like a thick fog, suffocating yet invigorating. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple, yet she stood rooted, embodying the fierce intent behind her dish. This moment defined the culmination of her journey, a bridge between doubt and self-empowerment, and she needed to take it. "Can you tell us what inspired this dish?" one of the judges asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. She inhaled deeply, letting the aromas of her pot pie fill her senses. "This dish is a reinterpretation of my childhood comfort food," she replied, her voice gaining strength with each word. "It's a mix of traditions from my family, grounded in the warmth of home but elevated with new flavors and experiences I've gained along my journey as a chef." The judges exchanged knowing glances, and Olivia fought against the invasive thoughts of inadequacy. She could feel the weight of their judgment pressing on her, but instead of shriveling, a fierce spark ignited in her chest. These were not just strangers, they were individuals who had traversed the culinary landscape she yearned to conquer. Their validation could provide the solstice she sought in her career. One judge, a woman with a piercing gaze, picked up her fork and cut through the flaky crust. Olivia's heart raced as she observed her initial taste, each facial expression unfolding like pages of an intriguing novel. Would this be the plot twist she longed for, or yet another familiar disappointing end? A moment of silence enveloped the space when the judge finished her bite. "Your flavors are bold yet comforting, reminiscent of home," she said, nodding thoughtfully. "But I detect a complexity. Mind sharing your thought process behind balancing these spices?" "Absolutely," Olivia replied, reveling in the moment. "It was crucial for me to ensure that the curry wasn't too overpowering, allowing the chicken and vegetables to shine through while still igniting nostalgia. Each ingredient tells its own story," she said, feeling her confidence swell. "Just like the journey I've taken to arrive at this point." With each word, Olivia knew she was weaving her truth into the fabric of the dish. This wasn't just about what was on the plate, it encapsulated her growth, her struggle against self-doubt, even her vulnerable moments under Derek's dismissive gaze. She was no longer merely presenting a dish, she was presenting herself. The questions continued, and she thrived in this exchange of ideas, their curiosity reminding her of why she loved this craft so deeply. Each interaction peeled back layers of self-imposed limitations, shedding skin that no longer served her. Here, behind the stove, with these judges in front of her, she was a chef reborn. But with the clock inching towards the end, an uneasiness began to seep back in. What if her narrative was still shrouded in doubt? Could the audience truly understand her story, or were they destined to focus solely on the plate? As she wrapped up her explanation, the judges whispered among themselves, and Olivia's palms began to sweat yet again. She had given it her all, every piece of herself was laid bare for scrutiny. Now came the part she dreaded, the part that determined if she would finally step into the light or remain overshadowed by her past failures. In that critical moment, she caught Julian's eye across the room, the man who had believed in her even when she faltered. His subtle nod sent a wave of resolve through her. Deep down, a rebellious thought stirred. What if this wasn't just about the competition? What if it was also about claiming her identity? The moment of truth approached, the judges requesting a final deliberation. As Olivia waited, a familiar voice echoed in her head, urging her to remain steadfast. This is only the beginning. Could she truly believe this? Casting aside the haunting specter of past disappointment, she braced herself for their verdict. The anticipation thickened, palpable in the air. Would they elevate her into the ranks she long desired, or push her back into silence? Each second stretched, testing her mettle as a chef and as a person. "Olivia," one judge finally said, bringing her back from her reverie, "it's time for our decision." The following words could either slice through her freshly blossomed confidence or feed the growth that had started to take root. Would she be ready for whatever lay ahead? The judge's gaze bore into her, each second tightening into a delicate thread of anticipation. Olivia's mind was a cacophony of memories and aspirations, all swirling together in a dizzying dance. She replayed every moment that had led to this point, recalling the shadow of self-doubt that had haunted her throughout her journey. Now, standing before these culinary titans, the weight of her past failures clashed with the hope of her fledgling success. "Your dish tells a story," the judge continued, her voice finding a firm and engaging tone. "We appreciate that ethos, but tell us what makes you passionate about being a chef." A crucial question, one that caused a rush of fervor to bubble to Olivia's surface. This was her chance not just to talk about her food but to illuminate her heart's truths. "Food is a bridge for me. It connects my roots to the possibilities I envision. Every flavor, every texture carries a memory. It's where love and creativity collide." With each word, her composure crystallized. This was not simply a contest to her anymore, it was proof that she had a legitimate place in the culinary world. The visceral connection she had with her craft resonated in her voice, a revelation that stirred something deep within her. "Are you ready to face the consequences of that passion?" Another judge interjected, scrutinizingly. Being a chef is not just creating on a plate, it's about the hardships, the long hours, the rejection. Are you prepared for that? Confrontation, at times, felt suffocating, yet Olivia could smell the opportunity mingled in the air like the spices that filled her dish. I understand that it's not just about the successes, but embracing everything. Each setback is a lesson, she stated, her voice unwavering. The judges leaned in, intrigued by her candidness. Their expressions revealed they were not just assessing her capability to create culinary masterpieces, they were gauging her fortitude as an individual. Here lay the essence of her journey, encapsulating moments of self-doubt and resilience into one potent narrative. With the deliberation extending, Olivia noticed the clock moving slowly. Time had a strange way of amplifying anxiety. The prospect of rejection hung over her, but instead of allowing it to drown her in despondency, she envisioned it as a stepping stone, a potential growth spurt soon to manifest. Her thoughts drifted to Julian's unwavering support, and she realized he had pushed her to recognize her own worth. She had been hesitant to assert herself, always placing others' opinions above her own potential. The thought ignited strength within her. If they turned down her dish today, it would be mere feedback, not a reflection of her intrinsic culinary identity. As the judges whispered, Olivia's fingers fidgeted with the edges of her apron, a habit she had developed when nerves struck. But now, those fidgeting fingers seemed less related to anxiety and more a sign of her building resolve. This moment wasn't just to be judged, it was a declaration of who she was becoming. Finally, the lead judge cleared his throat. "We're ready to share our insights. You've made quite an impression, Olivia." The words hung in the air, a precipice of hope and fear. Olivia's heart raced, she locked eyes with Julian again, hoping for a source of encouragement. She was ready for whatever was about to come, she just needed the confirmation that her journey was not futile but paved with potential. What if this isn't the end, but rather a new chapter? She pondered. All her previous encounters with failure felt like mere practice runs leading to this crescendo. Whichever the case, this moment marks more than just a decision. It signifies the validation of your mission, your passion, and your artistry. The pressure in the room intensified, and Olivia felt herself holding her breath. The judge's verdict was imminent, and with it came the prospect of a transformation that extended beyond the kitchen. Would she emerge renewed and emboldened, or would she face a disappointment that could crush her spirit yet again? As the lead judge finally began to speak, Olivia couldn't help but wonder if this was indeed just the beginning of something much greater than culinary ambition. "Olivia," the lead judge began, pausing as tension radiated through the gathered crowd, "your chicken pot pie is not merely a reiteration of a classic, it's an embodiment of personal growth and culinary innovation. We commend you for harmonizing tradition with your own vision. Believing in your journey, you've transformed a legacy into a statement of who you are as a chef." As his words washed over her, Olivia felt an electrifying rush of affirmation penetrate her core. In that instant, the culmination of her struggles crystallized into a powerful realization: she was not an unfortunate remnant of her family history. She was a force to be reckoned with, carving her own identity in the culinary world. "Your flavors are bold, delicate, and evocative, taking us on a journey across memories and ambitions," the second judge added, her prominent nod further instilling Olivia with hope. "You've shown us the courage to embrace who you truly are. Now, we want to elevate you to offer you a place in our culinary collaboration moving forward." Glistening tears threatened to spill from her eyes as the weight of those words settled in. This was the validation she had craved, the acknowledgement that her passion mattered not only to her but also to others who shared her commitment to culinary art. This was her breakthrough. Olivia could hardly process the magnitude of what stood before her, a partnership with seasoned professionals excited to build upon the foundation she laid, a stepping stone towards the dreams she envisioned. The thought of joining forces ignited an invigorating thrill, a cohesive purpose that served not just to elevate her craft, but to turn Dottie's into a beacon of inspiration that could reach far beyond her humble roots. In the days following the competition, she dedicated herself with renewed vigor to Dottie's. With Chef Julian's guidance, She began to mold her vision into a reality that would reflect her essence. The diner transformed from mere nostalgia to a vibrant tapestry interlacing her family's intricate history with her own contemporary narrative. The menu expanded to feature innovative dishes that told stories of resilience and community, bridging gaps of the past while ushering in a bold future. With every fresh recipe crafted, she felt herself blooming. The moment she organized a successful tasting event for the community, her heart swelled with a pride she once reserved for hypothetical achievements. Patrons who had previously whispered doubts now flocked to her diner, their excitement infectious as they savored her creations. Olivia's evolution became evident not just in the faces of satisfied customers, but in the growing number of aspiring chefs who sought her mentorship. What began as a struggle to reconcile her dual identity birthed an opportunity to empower others, fostering a new generation of culinary artists unafraid to embrace the complexity of their journeys. Standing behind the counter, embroiled in laughter and warmth, she reveled in the dynamics of her diner. More than a restaurant, it had become a home. Each unique dish emerging from her kitchen was not simply a meal, it was the embodiment of her perseverance, a celebration of her hard-won confidence. One afternoon, between serving dishes and engaging with customers, she paused to reflect on her journey. The gnawing doubts that once kept her shackled to insecurity had withered away, replaced by an unwavering belief that she had the ability to forge her own path. The facade of the ingrained narrative her family had cast upon her crumbled, revealing the vibrant colors of her individuality. As Olivia entered the larger culinary landscape through the mentorship arrangement, she felt the curtain of uncertainty finally lift. Today, she was not just a waitress stepping into legacy mode, she was a chef ready to confront challenges that lay ahead as her true self, a woman transformed by passion, courage, and authenticity. Looking out at the bustling diner, with laughter filling the air, Olivia knew she had conquered the most significant obstacle of all. Herself. She had transformed doubt into a formidable ally, and with it, she continued to evolve, weaving her identity through each dish she crafted. With each passing day, she solidified her position not merely as the daughter of a legacy, but as Olivia Thompson, chef, mentor, and creator. She had triumphed over a past defined by expectations and emerged into a realm where her own voice thrived. This was just the beginning. Now is the time for you to celebrate personal triumph. You need to subscribe now to savor more exclusive emotional stories that inspire growth and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our mission to share these impactful journeys. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Olivia's inspiring conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful transformation. Your support is essential.